Okay? And that's with 83 kids. All right? It's 6 minutes down. What the freaking?
Oh, Jesus, that's a big surprise.
That's a big downgrade from Eric Vogel on King Gooseberry.
Oh, Jesus.
Never mind. Just upgraded. We're good. What's up, buddy?
How y'all doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see y'all.
Hey, tell about what I called you, bro. What did I call you about?
Oh, you and what I haven't told you, Richie, Wojo actually beat you to the punch.
Screw you, Wojo.
He had called me like, I was actually on the phone with Wojo still, and he's like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened.
All right, where's the remove button? Can you remove Wojo from this meeting? Dirty crap! You're not Ernie! What's up, everybody? I'm Richie B from Banter with Richie B.
Hey, this is Ernie Pack. We're Pac-Man Paranormal.
Hi, I'm Eric Vanderlaan from War Party Paranormal.
I'm Jay Lynch from Dark Realm TV.
Hey, this is Joe Kudo from Dark Realm TV.
What's up, strangers? I'm Scary Gary.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? The Squatch Man here.
Hi, this is the Wojo.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason Schneider from LAP Productions and the Dark Realm TV Network.
Hey guys, my name is Sarah Sophia from KUWS.
You're watching the Animal Podcast Show.
Yeah, don't forget to tune in to the Animals Podcast. You won't be disappointed.
You are now watching the Animal Podcast Show, so stay tuned.
And you're watching the Animal Podcast Show.
And you're watching the Animal Podcast Show.
And you're watching the Animal Podcast Show.
And you're watching the Animal Podcast Show. So there.
Watching the Animal Podcast.
And you're watching the Animal Paranormal Podcast. Let's go.
Boom.
You are now watching Animal Expedition Files.
In the forest, what do I see? Well, it's a shadow behind that tree. Yeah, it's a squad. No, it's not a bear.
It's time for your favorite host.
Yo, what's up? Welcome to the Animal Expedition Files. It is Saturday, And my main man, Jay, co-host, has joined me on the show, has joined the team, the family, along with Jess on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss out on that. What's up, Jay? How's it going, brother? Good day.
Nothing much. What's going on? I'm super excited to be here, and I want to just say thank you very much for having me, and I'm glad to be a part of the family now.
Dude, this is awesome. I'm very excited about this. Before everything was like going crazy, my mouse freaking died on me all of a sudden, and then I was like, oh shoot, I can't click on anything like that, so everything was just like going haywire like that. But anyways, thank you so much everybody for joining Animal Expedition Files on the Animal and Jason. We are here. Please subscribe to our shows. You don't want to miss out on two amazing shows, especially Jay, speak a little bit about your show, the Vodcast, on what you do before we have our amazing guest on here tonight.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to Kenneth, but yeah, the Vodcast is something I've been doing about 10 years. It started with the Road to 40. It was my journey from 39 to 40. 10 years later, here we are on the Road to 50. It'll end at the end of the month, February 28th. I'd say, I've done a little bit of everything. I love reviewing and demoing different products that come out on the market. However, the real heart and soul of the podcast is letting people know that they are loved and that, they're cared for, and that, together I hope that we can make the world a better place.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Definitely. But thank you so much, man. Again, I know with all the things that are going on in this world, but I don't know if you saw that commercial. Squatch Juice had the founder on, what was that, a couple weeks ago or a week ago with Jess?
A week ago, yeah.
And yeah, dude, this stuff is amazing. Please go check it out. Check on the stuff that's on this and the ingredients, because I don't even drink coffee that much anymore because of this stuff. And it's amazing. I mean, there's times I do drink coffee because I love the taste of coffee, but coffee doesn't do it for me that much anymore like it used to. So, yeah, man. But what I do want to go into, there's been a lot of crazy breaking news going on in this world right now with everything going on, with these plane crashes. I commend the families and stuff. It just breaks my heart, especially people losing a lot. It's never fun. I remember in high school when 9/11 happened, and it was a tragedy, and it was bad, and I feel like it's coming all over again, with these planes and stuff like that. So I don't know about you, but I wanna share a little video here with Joe Rogan. We're sharing a little bit about the plane crashes going on here. Check this out. Take a look.
How do they not have sensors that detect where the planes are? How is that even possible? That you could be in a place where planes are flying 500 miles an hour, left and right, all over the place, landing and taking off, and you're going to fly through that, and you don't know where the planes are? That seems insane. That doesn't even seem possible, because how could you exist as a military aircraft if you don't have a comprehensive analysis of everything that's around you all the time? We have sensors. We put them on jets. Why wouldn't we put sensors on the helicopter?
Well, they probably do have them.
So why didn't it work?
Wow. We're going to find out pretty soon.
Will we even know?
Or we'll never
But everybody's dead, right? So how do you know when everybody's dead? They think the pilots are dead of the helicopter. I believe was there supposed to be 2 people in the helicopter? Three people in the helicopter, and was it 60 or 70 people? 60 people in the plane are dead.
Man, that's crazy. And if you think about it, he's right. There's sensors on these things, and if you watch the video, I don't know if you watched the video, Jay. If you watch it, you could see the helicopter going right towards it, and I had to watch it a few times because it was unsettling, stuff like that, and I was like, why? They're blaming that there's not enough people in the FAA. I call bullcrap. I'm gonna just say it right now in the air, I call bullcrap, because if you, like I said, this video is truth. This is what happened.
It's mind-boggling to me at this day and age with the technology we have that something like this can happen. And I don't want to get too political about it, but the head of the FAA was fired the day before, if I'm not mistaken, and 11 of the top heads of FAA were removed from their position. Now, I don't know if that's something intentional, and this is something we need to dig into a little further or not. But it's surprising to me that something like this can still happen nowadays.
Yeah. Speaking of somebody, Jessica just stopped by. She's on the YouTube channel right now. That's my other co-host on Wednesday nights, so you don't want to miss out on that.
No, you don't want to miss Jess.
No, and which Jess, I love the new microphone. I saw the video tonight with the hot one. So yeah, love the microphone. Looks good. It's cool stuff. But we're gonna bring on our guest here. You don't want to miss out. He's really, really amazing guest, a really amazing person. Yeah, Reverend Frank Ken Torres. You don't want to miss out. We're gonna have an amazing conversations. He even shared a couple of videos with me, but let's get him on here and let's have some fun. What's up, bro?
Hey guys, good evening. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Ken.
Good. Hey.
Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I'm always extremely humbled to be invited to other people's show, especially like you, Josh, someone of your caliber with your history. I've always been a great fan of the work that you do. So modest, so humble, genuine, and you are an animal. I think you like deadlift like 350, 300. You're a pretty big boy. So
pretty much, yeah.
I'm
I
into
love
that
it.
too. Like I lift and I lift heavy stuff. That's my stress reliever. So
Yeah.
and then Jay, I don't know too much about you, but so far what I've known, you've just been nice and cordial, and I'm glad to be in your presence.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm super excited to get into this conversation. When the animal told me that you were going to be on the show, I kind of course, looked into your background, and I was just like, wow, he is an interesting dude.
Yeah.
Seems like a swell guy with a beautiful message, and I can't wait to talk to you tonight.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
That's awesome. But before we get on to anything like paranormal and stuff like that, why don't you get into like your history? Like I know you talked about you were in the Marines.
Yeah. So,
The
Ken Torres, I'm just a guy. I served in the Marine Corps. I was Marine Corps infantry. Did my time overseas. I came back. Wasn't the same. Worked 8 years with alphabet soup agencies doing things that you're supposed to do with them. But throughout that all, I always felt the calling. I was always a person of the faith. I grew up in church, and then I started going to seminary school. I was a Protestant youth pastor, and so throughout that time, it took me about 12 years. Hey, Carl, it took me about 12 years to kind of lock in what I wanted to do and what my calling was. And as I was in seminary school, I kind of fell in love with the Orthodox and Catholic theology. I came across this little Orthodox Eastern Catholic order in Illinois. I did my formation with them while I was going through college. I became ordained and consecrated through them. And a few years later, I am the chancellor. Not only that, though, I'm a board certified mental health coach. I have a master's in pastoral counseling, so I have more than 10,000 clinical hours as a chaplain working with veterans. And I also have a doctorate in theology. And so, and not only that, though, I am the general manager for the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. I've been with them for 5 years. I work with the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and we've handled some pretty interesting cases. And I guess this is what everybody wants to hear. I often don't say this, but yes, I am an exorcist. I teach courses on deliverance, demonology, but not in the way that you would expect. My approach is more one-on-one. I wholeheartedly believe talking to people and listening to them before the situation escalates is key. And so that's a little bit about me. Not too interesting, just a regular dude. I am married. We're allowed to be married in the Eastern Rite. I lift heavy stuff. I'm involved in a lot of veterans organizations. I'm part of Wounded Warrior Project, One More Wave. So I'm a chaplain for our Knights of Columbus Council, which is the council that's used. That's the council is for Catholic men, right? That's based in the Catholic churches in America. And as a chaplain, that position is normally held by a Vatican priest, but I'm not a Vatican priest. I am an old rite Orthodox priest. So I had to go through that process to get validated by the Archdiocese, and they proved that my holy orders are valid. And so here I am. So That's about it.
It's fascinating. It's really
Yeah.
is. Your journey, like from military to church, kind of mirrors. My dad was in World War II, and he
Right.
was ordained after he came out of World War II. He was
Right.
honorably discharged, and so I think that really intrigued me about you. The fact that your paths were very parallel to each other.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of veterans that I know, but I know for me, it's just always a life of servitude. It's always, a lot of people ask me, what's the purpose of life? The purpose of life, and people will give you different answers. Well, my purpose is to be happy. And I go, okay, my purpose in life is not to be happy. My purpose in life is to be useful and fruitful and to help those. I think once you learn how to deny yourself and the things that you want, and you give yourself up to other people to be of service, I think that's a beautiful gift that not everybody can understand, or maybe they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Rudy, how are you?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's man, just being in seminary, like, cause I know, I went to a, I don't want to say it's in Australia. I went to a Christian college. I wanted to be
Beautiful.
um, pastoral. I studied in pastoral studies and also in music,
Nice.
up in Australia. But yeah, it's definitely humbling when you get to be able to help people out, especially when they're going through tough times.
Mm.
Yeah, it is a gift, but it's also a skill that has to be developed. It's
Yeah.
one thing to be there for your friends. I love you too, brother. It's one thing to be there for your friends, but it is a burden to be there for over 5,000 people like I am.
Mm.
I have to be really cautious and careful of how I conduct myself and what I say. I always have to keep myself accountable, and I have to make sure that what I'm saying is truthful according to what God reveals to me, what I believe theologically. But more importantly, everything that I do is weighed, right? And I'm always judged and I'm always under scrutiny. So I do my very best to try to be humble, be respectful, be fruitful, and more importantly, honest. So, you always get a lot of backlash. Oh, you're not real. You're fraud. You're not a listener. You're not a real this. You're not a real that. Cool. Perfect. That's great. Bless you. I appreciate that. Thank you. But if you run my background check, you're going to see that it's clean. And you're going to see all of my training, my theological history. But nobody cares about that, right? Um, the situation is there are a lot of clergy in this field, so to speak.
Yeah.
I am not paranormal clergy, so to speak. I am clergy that just so happens to be involved in the work that I do, and I use my training, my scientific training, to help people and families.
Hmm.
First and foremost, I don't care about the paranormal activity that's happening. That's secondary. For me, it's how's the family doing? What's their mental state? What's their emotional state? What can we do to heal those wounds that the family has gone through? And then once we are able to paint a picture of what the family is going through, then we can try to put the pieces together on, okay, there may be potential paranormal activity. But the most important thing always remains is you always, always, always take care of your clients first.
Yeah.
All of the paranormal activity and the gadgets and the accoutrements, wonderful, but that's always secondary.
Yeah.
I
Like
love that.
when you go into these like situations that like I know like I always like ask the questions. Was it really paranormal? Do you ever when you go in these situations like they'll explain everything to you? They have like these videos and stuff, and it ends up being something else and not paranormal.
Well, I mean, even if it's paranormal, I think paranormal has a negative connotation. Like basically, with the work of the foundation, our job is to help educate the public and help minimize fear. And so, although there might be some sort of supernatural activity, it doesn't mean that is always negative in nature, and it doesn't mean that it has to be scary. I've had the privilege of working over 300 cases with the foundation and outside. I am also the chancellor of the Solomonic Order of Saint Michael, the Archangel Orthodox Church, which is I'm the chancellor. I'm part of the International Order of Exorcists. And combined collectively, I've worked over 350 cases. 95% of those have had alleged paranormal activity. 95% of that, from my experience, has been disproven.
Yeah.
A trick of the eye, watching a certain movie, um, certain feelings and emotions, misunderstanding. But, what about the people that don't understand that the mind is a powerful thing?
Yep.
There are also individuals that have intuitive abilities and know They're not evil. They're not satanic worshipers. I believe that God bestows gifts upon people, and we call those the spirit of discernment. But it's how you use those gifts to help people is what's important. So I mean, there's also the possibility of like um, what is it, poltergeist, which I don't necessarily believe in, but we also have individuals that do have these sorts of abilities, and sometimes during stressful situations, things can manifest as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. I grew up in a situation where kind of like the paranormal was sort of sidelined in a way. I grew up in a Baptist
Right.
kind of scenario, and where we grew up, obviously in New England, there's a strong presence or belief in this thing, and you're kind of almost like forced into believing it. But
Right.
a lot of things turn out to not be what you expect them to be. So.
This is true. I was born and raised in New York and New Jersey, and my family's in Connecticut, so I'm well aware of the New England area. There's a lot of folklore too, but I actually grew up Pentecostal, right? So hardcore Pentecostal.
Mm.
Went to church 4 times a week. I had to kneel and rise and pray, literally. And if I didn't pray, I would get, whooped or whatever. So things like that. But there was a fundamental um, uniqueness about that because everything was taught to be demonic. And I never, ever, ever, ever bad talk anyone. I never, ever speak ill of anyone. That is the narrative that they were taught. And if that is what their sub conviction is, I have to respect that, but I respectfully and strongly disagree because my experience has shown otherwise. And that's how I always approach these situations. I ask these questions, people ask me these questions, and I go, no, it's not that your pastor was wrong. It's not that your bishop was wrong. Here's the thing. If you ever meet a clergy and this clergy speaks against other clergy or they speak against their bishop, they're not true Christians, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a spirit of being humble, right? So I would always say, and I caution these individuals, never speak ill against your bishops or other brothers and sisters in Christ. You can just put it in a way where that is the narrative that they were taught, and that's what God and the Holy Spirit revealed to them, and you have to respect that.
Yeah.
Because who are we to have moral superiority? And that I think that is one of the biggest problems within this field as well. There is a moral superiority where people think that their morals are better than yours. And if they don't necessarily agree or align with yours, then you're the bad guy. I don't fall into that mentality. My job is to always remain impartial, right? Look for the truth and give you the best interpretation. Because let's face it, how can you give an answer in the paranormal? This is still a quasi science, right? So we don't really know what we're communicating. We don't know what we're communicating with, but we tried to give an educated answer and give our interpretation of what we think might be happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, definitely you don't want to talk bad towards anyone, I don't think,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it
I don't
just it
jive with that.
tells you who you are, in person. And I know like I don't want to get into any religion because like I
Right.
know a lot of times people get, I guess, offended or something like that, but like
Right. Right.
if you think about how Jesus did it, like he loved people no matter what,
Exactly. And that's like the whole, precipice of, what the message is. There's over 30,000 religions in the world, and each truth is subjective to other individuals.
Yeah.
I know this works for me because I've seen the faith and the power of my beliefs. Do I always agree with all of the other belief systems? No. But there's a fundamental uniqueness that these beliefs will make you a good person.
Yeah.
And so that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And I try to live my faith as an example to where I don't push my faith on you. If you want to inquire, talk to me. I'll let you know. This is what works for me. This is how it's worked for me. And if you want to know a little bit more about what my faith is, we'll have a private conversation.
Yeah.
It's not my job. It's not my job to forcefully convert you. It's my job to act in the world like Jesus did, right? Love your neighbor no matter what. Did I
Yes.
stutter? No. Love your neighbor. And that's how I approach things.
I love that so much. You have no idea. I moved to Lynchburg, Virginia, which is kind of the opposite of that. It's always in your face. They're forcing
Right.
it upon you. And fundamentally to me, Christianity boils down to love thy neighbor and love
Right.
thy
Right.
God with all your heart, mind, and spirit. So yeah.
Exactly. Amen. And that's how it should be. And I I say this because there's a lot of people maybe listening to this or who see me, and I want to say I'm sorry that you've been hurt by religion, right? But that's not God. That's not Christ.
No.
Who hurt you are the people who conveyed that message. And I think often that gets misinterpreted in this quest for trying to preach the gospel and do things a certain way and be passionate about what you do. I think a lot of people also misinterpret scripture and they project it in a way where it hurts you.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference. If I am giving you a sermon, a homily, and a message, and this is what our faith is, and this is what we practice, and this is what we believe in, and if it bothers you, then that's a personal thing. But what I'm talking about, this, and this, oh, you're going to hell, you're this and that, blah, 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 this and that. There's a difference. There's a difference, right?
Yep.
Because no one knows. No one knows. No one knows. No one is God. No one can judge other people, right? It says Matthew 7:1, don't judge. And so I never try to judge. If anything, if there's something that I don't agree with, I can respectfully try to interject and say, this is why I disagree with you, and let me correct you on what this topic or what this verse of the Bible means. Because even in seminary school, hermeneutics, biblical interpretations was one of the hardest class. And
Yeah.
basically what it boils down to, once you get the language out the way, the Bible is simplistic and it says what it means and it means what it says.
Hmm.
Any addition or subtracting to it, you're the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I miss Australia. Like, I'll never forget. Like, I used to have conversations with because I used to take the bus a lot there.
Right.
I would sit with just random people of different backgrounds from, Israel, people from Scientology, um, Buddhism. Like, it didn't matter what religion or where they're from. Like, we just had a normal conversation. And like they would tell me about their faith, and then they'd be like, "Oh,
Right.
you have a faith?" And I would tell them and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's just about getting to know people and loving on each other. And
Mm.
like I said, like not to get all religion on the show or anything, but like it,
Right.
like how Jesus did. He just shared that love to people, and that's
Right.
what it was about. And it wasn't like forceful or anything like that. And people are like, "Wow, that's really cool. I didn't think of that."
Yeah.
Because
I,
they feel that from you. They feel that energy.
right. Right. It's true. It's called living in grace. And I have this rule and I try to live by it every day. And I'm human. I make mistakes, obviously. We have our moments, and anyone who says otherwise is a liar. We have our moments of weakness where we're tired, we're upset, little road rage. I know sometimes when I go to Costco, it's a little difficult for me. I have people running over my feet with their shopping carts, and you kind of lose your Jesus. But I always say this, and
That'll
when
be
people
good.
ask,
You
when
gotta
when
leave
people ask you, don't you hate them? Don't you? Why don't you hate people? I go, how can I hate somebody that God loves?
Yeah,
Mm.
that's good.
How can I hate someone that God loves and God created in his image? How can I hate them?
Yeah,
Now, it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with their lifestyle, but how can I hate something that God loves, that God
Mm.
created?
Yeah.
That's not how I do things. And that's why you will never ever see me involved in these situations in this field where it's dramatic and there's problems. I stay in my lane. I comfort, I counsel people. I have my own private practice, and that's what I do, right? And then when I'm called upon to work on a case of the paranormal, I just integrate myself, and that's how I always live my life. And let's say John Doe has a problem with John Reese, right? That's not my problem. If I'm working with this individual and you have a problem with him, that's not a me problem, that's a you problem. So
yeah,
if you get mad at me because, this whole the enemy and the neighbor stuff, and, a friend of my enemy, whatever that is, I don't buy into that. That's a lot of the narcissistic things. This is not the military, that sort of stuff. This is not Sun Tzu. This is not the art of war. This is humanity. Most humans don't have that concept and will never understand that concept, or even the guilty by association. That only applies in the court of law. You can't apply those things out here in the real world because it's dumb. It's the truth. It's dumb. So I will work with anybody and I talk to anybody who treats me with respect and kindness. And if at any point in time, yeah, hey, you know what? It was great working with you. I felt some trepidation. I felt like maybe you were a little rude. Did I do something to offend you? If I did, please let me know. I'd like to fix this.
yeah.
If you're just being a jerk, just to be a jerk, hey, you know what? Thank you for this opportunity. I will never work with you again. And that's it. And I move forward.
That's awesome. I have to make a confession, Father. I came in here.
With the preconceived notion and judgmental. I get that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
just
no.
immediately when I heard that my first night as a co-host was going to be with a priest, I was like, "Oh boy, this is going to be
Yeah.
interesting." And you've proved me wrong on every step of the way, so I appreciate it.
No problem. I mean, that's how I am. There's nothing fake or false about me. I did a Paracon 2 years ago, 3 years ago, called Dark Waters Paracon in upstate New York with Frankie Frank, Patty Negri, Richard Lale, Christina Bloom. And I was hearing the chatter. You know, I gather intel. That's my job. I was hearing the chatter. You know, and then Nick Crusom, both Satanists. You know, the idea was like, be careful. You know, there's going to be some apprehension. You're a priest. I am great friends with a Satanist, two of them actually. You know, I speak to Richard Lale quite often. Sometimes we send each other memes, and Crusom and Christina Bloom, because there was that preconceived notion that I was going to come in and be judgmental. That's not my job. Like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to talk. I'm here to give a lecture. Let's talk. We can break bread together. We don't always have to agree with everything. You know, being respectful and breaking bread doesn't mean that you necessarily condone or tolerate certain aspects of a person's belief, but you can be a decent human being and still break bread and look at individuals for who they are, human beings. You know, the moment you come in with this idea, oh, Reverend Father Ken, or a Satanist, or a Wiccan, or a pagan, or whatever, oh my gosh, I can't be with them because my religion says this and I'm going to go to hell. No, man, just be a decent human being, right? Right? You know, have some intestinal fortitude, be passionate, be respectful, and have a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's all you have to do. Be kind, man. That's always my message. Be kind.
Yeah, I could say that a million times with, especially in this community, be kind and loving, no matter, kill people with kindness, no matter what. Especially when people cut you off all the time and they flick you the bird. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times I'll just go like,
Yeah.
wave back. It pisses people off, but it's funny as hell because then they're like, "Why is he waving at me? I don't get it."
Yeah. I always when people cut me off and I go, I hope you're not late to your colonoscopy. That's what I say.
That is the thing, is we are so quick to judge and be angry, but we don't know what that person and their situation is in that moment. And it's so hard as a human being to stop and just say, you know, I don't know what's happening with them. I know I'm angry because you just cut me off, but you might be rushing to the hospital to get to your wife who's having birth or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. You might be rushing to the hospital to get the last breath of your loved one. And
Yes.
hoping you make it in time, and then hopes that you get to say that final goodbye and you get that closure, because you've been so mad and angry all these years and you didn't have a decent relationship, and you let that pride and ego get a hold of you, and you just need that last minute to say, I am sorry, please forgive me. We don't know that.
Right.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna be we're gonna have to go on commercial break here, but definitely a couple of really crazy topics I want to talk about, because it's
let's go for it, man.
Like, personally in myself, that being a new Christian when I was 13 years old, there was a lot of negative stuff, but we'll talk a little bit more about it, and I want to get your ear about it because it was like very traumatic for me as a kid. And I don't talk about it a lot, but it'd be really worth it talking to you about it. But let's check this out. We'll go on a commercial break and we'll be right back.
The sun, more beautiful.
Yeah, we're back on those commercials that we were just showing. Dark Realm TV is out on Roku and Amazon Fire Stick. You don't want to miss out. A lot of amazing horror shows, podcasts, and a lot of cool stuff. They're even showing some stuff from like the 50s and 60s, like old hardcore, like Dracula and King Kong, and a lot of cool old stuff that I used to love watching as a kid. If I told my wife that, my wife would be like, "You're such an old fart." Yeah. and also check out Squatch Juice. That stuff is amazing. Click the the QR code, and when you're purchasing, type in AEF10. They'll give you a cool discount there if you use my code there. So yeah, definitely, Reverend Kenneth Torres. Thank you so much again for coming on this show. Like, it's already like been 36 minutes, and like, holy crap, it's going by so freaking fast. So I know like we don't have much time left, but what I do want to talk about and kind of like talk your ear off about this, it's I know a lot of people talk about it in the paranormal is demonic possessions and things that are going out there. Because I know when I was about 13 years old, and I've had an experience. Some say it was demonic.
Okay.
But it was after I got saved. When I was 13.
Okay.
I was very heavily in the church and youth group and stuff like that. And I had a pastor friend that would pray with me all the time. We hang out and we would have Bible studies but yeah, it was a typical night where we were just having a typical Bible study. I went outside for some reason. I don't know why, it was weird. And when I went outside, everything got dark. Like things were like just starting to crowd over me. And then I'd start walking and it'd get heavier and heavier. And it felt like something was like trying to grab me. You know what I'm talking about? And then to the point where I went on my knees and passed out.
Okay.
Literally. Like it was such, you could see these dark shadows like surrounding.
Right.
And if it didn't feel paranormal to me, it felt more demonic. I just want to get your little air about that, about like cases like that.
Right. So you were just saved, right?
Mhm.
Did you get baptized that same day?
No, not at that time.
Okay. So that's what we call the internal battle. That's the internal struggle. You know, the devil, we believe that the devil is always attacking God's children, right? Because you are worth something, because now you're saved by grace and you're in faith. And so normally that's not uncommon to happen. You've given yourself over to Christ. You've given your life. You've been saved, and that's the enemy. That's the devil, whatever you want to call it, trying to remind you that at one point in time you were his, and that can be such an overwhelming feeling because now he's lost the battle in that sense. You've given your life over to Christ, and so God allows these things to happen as just kind of like a rebirth. You know, you were once walking in the darkness. You know what it felt like to be surrounded by darkness and to be surrounded by evil. But once you've given yourself over to Christ, it's basically now you are a new creation in that sense. And so while I can't definitely explain what happened to you, it just seems like it was that spiritual battle that was like, okay, now you're saved. And so that was the enemy trying to remind you of what was happening, what what could have been, the type of lifestyle you lived, or the things that were influencing you or around you, or it could have just been God opening you up to see what you were really dealing with before you got saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really an interesting thing. I had a similar situation once where I had this rage come over me. Now I'll admit that at this point in my life, and I think you'd be okay with me saying this, but I consider myself agnostic at best. But there was a point where I was a part of the church. I was a youth leader for Winthrop Street Baptist Church, and this rage and this anger came over me. And I mentioned it to one of the other youth leaders, and they're like, "No, since when you're saved, you can't be possessed by a demon." And I always thought that was an interesting take on it. And just hearing you talk about it, like, it's really enlightening to me to hear your take on that. It's a beautiful way of saying
Right.
it.
So that is the belief, right? That if you are living in Christ, Christ dwells within you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. But God allows these things to happen to test your faith. A lot of people who have been possessed have been people of the faith, right? Sometimes God does that to test our faith, but more importantly, to humiliate the enemy, right? When you come out of this victorious and strong, it's a way to test your faith. But what often people don't realize is that although maybe your spiritual life is saved, they're not taking into consideration the mental aspect, right? And the emotional aspect. Yes, you're in this wonderful feeling. I go to church, I read the Bible, I preach, whatever, but have you been neglecting your physicality? Because those are also entrance and key points that the enemy can use to attack you. The demonic can afflict your physical, they can afflict your emotional state. But even if you are walking with Christ, if there's any weakness in any of those points, you can be influenced. It doesn't mean that you're being possessed, but you can be influenced.
Mm. Mm. That brings me back to like the story of Job in a way. Like I've always considered that an interesting story because you can take it in two ways where God is allowing Satan to test and really push a human to their absolute maximum who will not turn away from God.
Right.
However, you can also look at it from the other perspective and say, why would God allow? Why would he even do a wager with Satan and allow Job to have to go through this? Like,
That's always an interesting question. I get that a lot. It's like, if God loves us, why does he allow us why does he allow bad things to happen? Well, explicitly, it is free will. God is like a parent. If you're always constantly intervening in your kids' lives, are they going to learn anything? If your kids have a posh life, if they don't know work, if they don't know struggle, if they don't experience certain seasons in their life, then are they going to be well and capable and prepared for the real world? And so, while I don't have a definitive answer on why God allows these things to happen, I do know that it does boil down to free will. We have the choice. We have the choice to either turn to God or turn away from God. Or and my favorite one is like, let's go ahead and just blame God or the devil. But how come we're not blaming ourselves? Sometimes we're at fault. Sometimes, it's easy to point a finger and say, well, God, it's your fault, or it's the devil's fault. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's our fault. I think as human beings, we always want and need, and I suspected that this question was going to come up because it's a really important question.
Oh yeah.
That's always the most important question is like, well, I don't want to go back to church because, God allows things to happen. Well, yeah, that's free will. I mean, if he didn't, then we wouldn't have free will and there wouldn't be a need for the church. There wouldn't be a need for any of these things. But these things happen because it is to test our volition. It is to test our spirit. And why not? Why not? It's horrible and it sucks because I've seen, on the other hand, what this affliction can do. But I've seen the beautiful transformation that happens when people are delivered or they're exercised. It's
Yeah.
almost angelic in nature, divine in nature, and they become almost saint-like. So, I mean, problems, tests, and challenges are always going to be a part of life. But let's try to be focused on where are these challenges coming from? Because sometimes we cause the problems ourselves and we don't realize it. And then we're like, oh, God, it's your fault. You did this. We're like, no, you didn't get the job because you didn't apply. You're praying for me to get the job, but you didn't even apply. How can you blame me? Or blame the devil? Satan is in the way because Satan didn't allow me to get the job. Well, because you didn't even apply or you didn't even answer for the interview. Of course, come on.
Yeah.
It's knowing when to listen, right? A quick story. Guy, you guys have probably heard this in the past. The guy is on the roof of his house. There's a flood, right? The water's coming up. God, help me. I need your help. A boat comes by. Hey, you want to get on the ship on the little boat so we can get out of here? No, I'm waiting for God. All right, cool. Bye. See you later. Helicopter comes by. Hey, come on. Your house is going to go under. No, I'm waiting for God, man. I can't leave here. Then the boat comes back again. Are you sure you don't want to get on this boat? Because literally you're up in neck in water.
Yeah.
No, God is going to help me. I'm waiting for God. The guy dies. He goes to heaven. He goes, God, what happened? I thought you were my boy. You're my friend. You're supposed to help me out. He goes, bro, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What else do you want? And I think sometimes people expect a supernatural response,
Yeah.
to certain things, or they want a miraculous response, but it's still miraculous in that way. Just because there's no, smoke show and mirrors and there's magic wands and there's fairy pixie dust, it's, that's, and I think that's the problem, like with us as human beings, we just have to learn how to open our eyes and be able to interpret, what's right. And faith allows you to expect and to receive the good and the bad news.
Yeah.
That's what it prepares you for.
Like, do you ever get in conversation with people who are like, why did God allow that to happen? Like,
It
I
happens a lot. It's
question.
it's called it's called ontology, and it's the study of good and evil, and it's basically why God allows evil. And it's like I tell them, I don't have all the answers. We don't ever proclaim to have all the answers, but we know that these things happen out of free will.
Yeah.
Bad things are happening out there. Well, God, why don't you intervene? Well, why don't you intervene as a human being? We have that free will. God give us that deposit of faith and integrity, and He gave us a heart to go help those people who are in need as well. And that's what we're kind of supposed to do: look out for one another, be decent. And so I think when I talk to people about these things, they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes a little more sense." Okay, well, why don't you help them out? I didn't think about that. Well, there's your answer.
Wow. That's very cool, man. Yeah, definitely that would be a definitely awesome response for it, because I know so many people ask that question all the time, like, why didn't God do this? Why, there's so much stuff, especially with children, like it could get a little intense with that, especially with children and everything that goes on in this life. And right now, we got planes crashing and
Yeah.
stuff, and
It's
people like,
unfortunate. It's unfortunate and it's tragic, and their families are in my prayers. I think I don't know what to make of it. Definitely not some sort of conspiracy, but I do think that there was negligence. Either from the air traffic controller and the pilots. It was just a tragic accident, and sometimes that's just what it is. An accident is an accident. Well,
Yeah.
God, why did you allow things to happen? Okay, it was an accident. Bad things are always going to happen. And there's nothing that we could do about it. Good things and bad things are always going to happen. And when we start placing the blame on God for everything that happens, then we lose accountability as well too. It's easy for me to blame God and say, God, it's your fault I'm not a millionaire. God, it's your fault I don't have that Rolls Royce. And God, is your fault, God this, God that. But what have I done? I mean, what have I done to even merit, such richness in a sense? Have I put into work? Am I being logical? Am I putting my faith to work? Am I practicing it? Am I acting out my faith? And so it's just always a double-edged sword, and that's always been a sensitive topic. But there are a lot of people who are hurt, and that's the answer that I try to give them.
Yeah. Humans, it's quicker to put the blame on someone else than themselves.
Right. Which happens a lot in the paranormal. A lot of people will easily blame the supernatural for all of their problems, not realizing that they're the ones who caused them. My family's falling apart. It's a demon. Well, my marriage is falling apart. It's a demon. Okay, well, how has your marriage been? Well, it's been rocky for the past few years. Why? Finances, substance abuse, infidelity, stress. Are you talking to your partner about these things? Is there communication? I think communication is key, but like you said, Jay, it's easy to blame the divine for everyone's problems.
Yeah. I would be remiss to ask, have you ever been part of a exorcism?
I was gonna
Yes,
say,
I have. Yeah, I have four documented exorcisms. Three of them were oppression, and then one of them, well, is it four or five? Yeah, I think I did five. I can't remember the other one because I've helped out so many people. But with the exorcism in general, it's not like in the movies. It's more just prayer. But one of them was a truly possessed individual who displayed supernatural strength, supernatural knowledge, spoke in unknown languages, knew things about me and other people that they could have not known of. But thank goodness that we were able to help that individual, and now they are clear. And a lot of that, and they are thriving, they are productive members of society, and a lot of that had to do with the underlying issues of trauma. And so, yes, most of the cases that I have dealt with have been like an infestation or oppression. But before, it gets to the actual possession part where it's violently taken over your body, that's why the pastoral counseling and the chaplaincy comes in handy. We also have all our clients go through a thorough psychological evaluation and a physical evaluation. It's not just, well, I feel like there's a demon, so let's go ahead and do a ritual. No, you have a responsibility to that person, to that family that you're helping. So you need to make sure that everything is in place. What happens if you do an exorcism and a person is actually suffering from a severe physical disability? If you
Mm.
don't get those things taken care of, they could potentially die, and that is on your hands. If a
Yeah.
person is suffering from extreme psychological illness, it's your job to find out what type of treatment they're getting, what type of medication, and what you can't do. And it's not to say that they're crazy. We're not trying to prove that they're crazy. We just need a baseline understanding of how they're doing overall.
Yeah.
Because with the exorcism, it's definitely a holistic approach. But we have psychologists, we have doctors, and they also play an important part. So it always kills me when I hear all of these fake book exorcists talking about, I'm just going to go ahead and pray for you. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a psychologist. Okay. Well, tell that to a cancer patient. Tell that cancer patient that cancer's a demon.
Yeah.
So then you have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility to take care of your clients that you're helping. And that's what we do. And at least for us, for me, within my order, it is a minimal of 6 months. And that's just getting to know each other, meeting weekly. And after 6 months, it's called the discovery phase. We discern, okay, what do we have? Is there even evidence of anything supernatural? 9 times out of 10, there isn't.
Now let me ask you this question because I know you were talking about the Warrens. Have
Right.
you ever been near like any like special object? I know they have like hundreds of objects and stuff
Right.
that are haunted. Have you ever had any situations where you've been near an object and it just was unsettling, or have you had any weird experiences?
I mean, I've done several investigations, and I've gone into places where it feels unsettling, but I don't pay any mind to it. I don't buy into the show. When I go into a place or it's a location, even if you tell me that this hot object is allegedly haunted or whatever, I will keep that into consideration. But my faith guides me, and I even have acquired haunted objects from other groups and other individuals. But the museum is a little different. Tony Spera and Nesper are different from the Warren Legacy Foundation. So Tony is in charge of all of that. But on the Warren Legacy side, we focus more on helping clients. We don't have a museum per se, but
Yeah.
we have taken objects that are allegedly haunted, and they sit in a safe. I pay no mind to it, and nothing happens. I don't buy into that notion of these haunted objects. I understand that there might be something behind it. I am respectful, but my faith guides me. I'm not afraid of those things, and it doesn't scare me. But I do remain respectful because you don't know what really is behind that object. You can't be egotistical as well because you can be attacked. Uh, you can be afflicted. You can be affected, so to speak, by these objects.
Yeah. I totally agree 100%. Before we actually go, we have a few minutes left. Is there anything you want to say, Jay, before we hit the music here and head out?
Yeah, I have one thing. It's a real personal case. My father-in-law is a strict and hardcore Baptist, a Southern Baptist, please forgive me if this offends anyone, but a very right-wing Baptist who came back from Vietnam and swears up and down that he was possessed by a demon of suicide. And I tried to explain to him that I really feel like you were going through PTSD. Like it
Right.
explains all your symptoms. But because he's so clouded by his faith, I guess, in a way of
Yeah.
saying it, he refused to believe that. And how do you, is there a way to get through to a person who has put up walls?
You just have to be gentle and compassionate with them, and let them grieve. PTSD, and that's another thing. Like the word demons doesn't always necessarily mean something supernatural. Demons can be our own internal struggles, and so that's something he's harbored with him. Trauma is prevalent in the military. I've suffered from it, and maybe for him that's his interpretation. I would say just give your father time to breathe, and just pray and just have just more in-depth conversations to help understand where that is coming from. But PTSD is a demon in that sense. It is an internal battle. And so maybe he is just merging the supernatural with the natural explanation. And most of the time that comes out of a coping mechanism, right? It's
Yeah.
easier to blame the supernatural than to deal and confront with our own emotions. And we have those videos, right? Animal, do we have time to show one of the videos? The
Yeah,
one with the trash can?
I was just thinking about that, but let's check out a couple of these videos here because I saw a couple of them, and one of them in particular we'll share last because that made
Yeah.
hair grow on my chest a little bit because it kind of made me unsettle there a little bit. But check this out. Let's see. Did they? Yep. Let's check this first video.
Right. Yeah, so that was the case back east. And so this case initially originated as a request for help. We had three different intuitives in the foundation from all over the world now talk to each other and come with the analysis and the interpretation that it was a loved one. And so when we got on the horn with the spouse, uh, the spouse just died. And so the spouse just died, but he wanted some sort of closure, but he wasn't getting it because of the things he did in life to her. She wasn't willing to forgive him. So the idea behind this is that this was his spirit lingering, trying to communicate with her to try to get some closure. And that at that time it didn't happen. So that's what that is. There's nobody there behind the door. There's no strings or nothing like that. But I mean, it's just one of those videos that's it's pretty interesting. You see it, you're like, okay, that's cool. But I mean, it's another day in the office for me.
This is another one here that was very let's
Yeah.
check this one out, Jay. This one's very interesting.
You turn the volume up on that one a little bit.
I don't know if it
Yeah.
I heard a little something there, but
So yeah. So I mean, if you are able to turn up the volume on that one, that is growling. So this is a case that came out of the Midwest, where a family was dealing with a lot of alleged phenomena, scratching, shadow figures. They were seeing these dark images, what they would interpret as demonic, and they left the camera rolling. And when they got home that night, um, they heard growling. So like the video is kind of low, but if you put it up, the volume, you'll hear growling. It's a consistent growling,
it's
and
not
and that's thought to believe that was the demonic entity just lying in wait, and that's what they would do to mess with the family, mess
yeah.
with the technology, and make these noises to scare them, to overpower them, and just make them live in fear.
Yeah.
So one quick question. I know we're running out of time here, but do you believe that a Christian soul or spirit can linger after death, or do they ascend immediately?
Well, that's a tricky question because Scripture tells us different that we're lifted up.
Hmm.
What I can say is that I know that God allows things to happen. There are mysteries that we don't know that God allows things to happen. I've had experiences where there are individuals, these lost souls, so to speak, who are just not ready to cross over, or maybe they died quickly and their spirit lingers.
Yeah.
Normally, what I just do is I test the spirits with Scripture, and I pray for them to try to cross over. But I believe that anything is possible, and I want to be careful theologically. What I can say just boils down to the mysteries of God. We don't know all of the answers.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what man, this show, man, tonight has been a very special night.
Yeah.
Ken, this has been an awesome night. Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for just your knowledge, your faith, and just there's like so much stuff that I needed to hear personally, especially with my experiences, and I'm sure Jay too, because I could see Jay's face, like this was such a knowledgeable and loving, caring show tonight, and that's what I love about these shows is we could just come and talk about
Right.
faith, love, and
Yeah.
just coming together and having a good time.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much Reverend
I
Father.
want to thank the both of you gentlemen for having me. Like I said, it's an honor and it's a privilege. I'm extremely humbled by the request to be with the animal. Jay, I mean, hopefully I left a good impression, and I see that your wheels are turning a little bit, and I feel like I've stirred something up in your soul a little bit.
You did, my friend. You did.
Okay.
And it was Jay's first night for co-host, so that was that's
Divine intervention.
Yeah, I think you never know.
You never know. God brings people to places in certain ways. You never know, man.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, man. This has been an amazing show. Thank you everybody for watching the Animal Expedition podcast show. It's a Saturday night, and I hope everybody's having an amazing weekend tonight. And hopefully you're not going too crazy. Drink some coffee or squash juice.
Yeah.
But
I need some of that stuff. I've been watching those videos. I've seen the Squatch Man comes up, and I was like,
yeah,
it looks like it's pretty refreshing.
take a picture of that QR code and punch in AEF10, and
Nice.
it gets you a little discount there on the
Nice,
spot.
nice.
But before we go, Jay, is there anything you want to ask before we go?
No, I am moved. I am absolutely moved in a way that I never thought I'd be moved tonight. And so I appreciate you inviting me to co-host the show. I
Yeah.
appreciate Reverend Father Ken for enlightening me in many ways. And I will absolutely be reaching out to you outside of this podcast.
No problem. Gentlemen, have a good night and enjoy your Saturday. Thank you so much. Be blessed.
And have a good night. And we're gonna go here to commercial. We'll talk a little bit behind scenes. And
yeah.
Everybody, hope you have a blessed night, and don't have too much fun. See y'all.
Deep in the forest, what do I see? Well, it's a shadow behind that tree. Yeah, it's Sasquatch. No, it's not a bear.
Lights on. Dark Realm TV. Coming soon.